We know Arsenal want a striker. We know Arsenal want a left winger. We know Arsenal have been linked to Matheus Cunha and more recently linked to Joao Pedro. But the question is, where do those two fit into that equation? Are they the striker? Are they the left winger? I think it's worth exploring. So we're going to do that. Before we get into it, though, if I could just ask you to please subscribe down below, click the like button down below. Both of them are free. Both of them massively help me. We're trying to get to 17,000 subscribers and let's get into it. So I briefly touched on this at the end of yesterday's video, this link to Joao Pedro that came from Sam Dean initially. And I kind of said, I'm not a fan. You know, I want Sesko, I want Gyökeres. He'd be at the back of the queue. And that was kind of assuming that we'd be getting him as a striker. But that may not be the case. So this came out today. So this was Miguel Delaney talking about those links to Joao Pedro. So again, that kind of adds fuel to the fire in the sense that we're definitely looking at him. But he said Arsenal are looking at several options to be signed to play on the left next season, including Brighton's Joao Pedro. Matheus Cunha and Nico Williams are among the other options shortlisted. So suddenly I started thinking about, okay, maybe we are looking at bringing them in to play off the left. And that makes more sense because I don't think we're going for anyone other than Victor Gyökeres or Benjamin Sesko, unless we can get Isak. But either way, I don't think we're getting these links to Cunha and Joao Pedro as like the fourth and fifth choice centre forwards for us to bring in. And yeah, the more I thought about it, the more it makes sense that they could come in to play off the left-hand side and not just the left-hand side. And this is the thing. I think a big element of this is about how you build the balance of the attack for next season. And so if we look at the current group of attacking players that we've got, throw Waneri into this. He's not on the graphic, but throw Waneri into it because I still think Arteta considers him as more of a backup right wing option than a midfielder at the moment. But Raheem Sterling won't be here. Jesus, unfortunately, I don't think really will be here. I don't think he'll be recovered until the end of the year, really. And even then, I don't think we'll see the Gabriel Jesus that is good enough to play for Arsenal. You've then got Trossard and Martinelli. And then you've got Havertz and Saka. You bring in Gyökeres or Sesko. But actually, if you think back to the squad we had last year, we never replaced Eddie Nketiah. So Benjamin Sesko or Victor Gyökeres, they, for me, effectively replace Eddie Nketiah, not as the level of Eddie Nketiah, but as a central option. We lost a central option this year that we never replaced. And to be honest, it's hurt us. It's hurt us quite badly. But I also look at Martinelli and Trossard, and I think we sell one of them. We have heard multiple times from multiple people that it sounds like Arsenal will look to make one kind of big-ish sale this summer. And I think one of those two has to be the one. We've seen what Arsenal can do with both of them, and ultimately it's not quite enough. And if we're being linked with a left winger, you have to assume that one of Trossard and Martinelli is leaving. So then you look at what we're left with then, right? We're left with, and I want Trossard to be sold over Martinelli. So I'm going to say Trossard gets sold. That leaves us with Havertz, Saka, Martinelli, Waneri, Jesus, Gyökeres or Sesko. And that's only 6 attacking players. So then you need to bring in at least a 7th attacking player. Well, you've got Martinelli in there, who for me is your wide left wing option. Even though I know we've enjoyed looking at him playing centrally, he is your wide left option. And he is similar, albeit maybe not as good, but similar to Nico Williams. He's similar to Jamie Bino-Gittens in terms of they are quick, wide wingers that will get to the byline or they'll cut inside. I think you have 2 of a bit of a similar player there. Whereas if you start looking at bringing in a Cunha or Joao Pedro, I think it's much more similar to Jesus. And this is kind of where I think we're looking at. I think we're looking at replacing Jesus because Jesus would have gone this summer. If Jesus wasn't injured, I think we would have sold him this summer because the wages he is on simply don't reflect the player that we have. And I think we'd have looked to move him on. But that's not to say that Jesus is a player or a type of player that Mikel Arteta doesn't want. And actually, the signing of Jesus and the wages he's on, I think people often look back on harshly and unfairly. Because obviously, in hindsight, with the injuries he's had, he's not been worth the money, the fee or the wages. But when he came in, he offered something completely different. We had to pay him the wages he's on, by the way, to get him to move from Man City to the team that Arsenal were at the time. And so that's why he's on those wages. And ultimately, if it wasn't for injuries, we had an exceptionally good player there, an exceptionally versatile player there. And that is the key. The versatility is the key. And if we have lost him, which I fear we have, I think Arteta looks to replace him. And this is why it's unpredictability. Unpredictability is the key word. If you look up, Mikel Arteta wants Arsenal to be unpredictable, something along those lines. Article after article after article, interview after interview after interview, he has spoken about the desire for Arsenal to be an unpredictable team. You look at them. March 2022, July 2023, November 2024, September 2024, July 2023, March 2025. And it's not about unpredictability in the individual players. It's not about having those mavericks that you never know what they're going to do, as much as they are useful players to have. It's about the unpredictability tactically. It's about game by game being able to make changes so that the opposition don't know what we're coming with, and so that we can nullify the opposition in certain things that they're trying to do. And I think a Cunha or a Joao Pedro, someone like a Jesus, effectively, really offers you that. And the balance of having Martinelli and a Cunha is better than the balance or imbalance of having a Martinelli and a Nico Williams, as an example, in my opinion. This is kind of the things that he said. This was more specific in terms of wanting to be unpredictable and fluid. He said we need to look at threats from all areas. We've lost very important wingers that were providing a lot for us in the final third, and we're looking to explore other options as well. The team has this capacity to adapt. We have a lot of players with great football intelligence to understand when to move and why, especially to do certain things. This is what we're looking at, I think. And going back to that Jesus point, when we bought Kai Havertz, it wasn't to compete with Jesus. We didn't buy Kai Havertz to compete with Jesus or to replace Jesus. I think Arteta bought Kai Havertz to play with Jesus. And that was what we saw early on, again, before Jesus went and got injured again, after Havertz had arrived. And it worked quite well at times. They actually had quite a good relationship on the pitch because they interlink well, they're fluid. Havertz could make runs off Jesus and vice versa. And I think we're going to look to replicate that again. And so whether it's a Victor Gyökeres, a Benjamin Sesko, or a Kai Havertz, I think it could work quite well. The other thing is that in a different era of Arteta's Arsenal, we have kind of seen it before in terms of playing what you might think is more of a central centre forward off the left. We did it with Aubameyang. We did it quite successfully with Aubameyang. And look, don't get me wrong, the system was completely different. We were playing a 3/5 at the back at the time, and we were relying on Aubameyang being the kind of outlet down the left. But that's not to say that it's not something that Arteta took with him and quite liked. And so I genuinely do think this is something that we could see. Now, if you compare the two of them and you want to talk about who you would rather have, I think it's quite interesting. Now, don't overly look at the bars here. Don't look at as much as we bloody love the greenery here isn't actually that useful because Joao Pedro is being compared on those green bars to strikers. Matheus Cunha is being compared to wingers and attacking midfielders. So if you look at, for example, XG on target or even XG, Matheus Cunha's is lower than Joao Pedro's, despite Cunha having a green bar and Pedro having a yellow bar. But if you look at the raw numbers, both of them provide goals. You know, a goal, both of them are kind of, Cunha's just above a goal every other game. Pedro's just below a goal every other game. Obviously, Pedro scores plenty of penalties. They take shots, plenty of them. I mean, Cunha averages 3.5 shots a game. I like that, especially because of how good he is at shooting from outside the box. You then look at their passing. Joao Pedro, again, this makes Joao Pedro's look better because he's being compared to strikers, but assist makers, relatively, expected assists is decent for Cunha. Accurate long balls, apparently that's a good one for Cunha. Chance creation, though. Decent chance creation. And this is what we want to see from our wide players. But where I think it's more interesting is the dribbling. Successful dribbles. Both of them very successful dribblers. You see them, they're very hard to stop. And they can run down the flank, but they can also run centrally. And I was thinking about a partnership of like Cunha and Victor Gyökeres, because Victor Gyökeres, excuse me, loves to go out wide. I need a drink. Victor Gyökeres loves to go out wide. but predominantly to the left. He has this real left-sided bias. And again, that could really work if he was partnered with a Cunha. Because as he drifts out left, Cunha occupies that space centrally. And if you can feed him, he can drive. And if Gyökeres has taken one centre-back out wide with him, and the opposition just have that one centre-back left, and you've got Cunha who's made the run inside driving at them, those are the sorts of combinations that I want to see. And if I compare that to Martinelli, unless Martinelli's already in behind, if he's running centrally and there's a centre-back in front of him, I don't really back Martinelli to get past them. Whereas a Cunha, I massively would. Both of them take plenty of touches, very, very comfortable on the ball. And so ultimately, I like it. I like the idea of it. I think it makes sense if you bring in a striker that essentially replaces what Nketiah was to the squad. As I said, albeit at a higher level, you bring in a Cunha that replaces Gabriel Jesus. And then ultimately, when the market potentially gets better, you look at replacing Gabriel Martinelli. And that's the thing I'm stuck on. I don't think now is the time to go big on replacing Martinelli, unless it's Rodrigo. But if it's not, I just don't think the upgrade's big enough. Whereas what Cunha can offer you in terms of versatility, in terms of that unpredictability, I think that would be better for us. Now, the fees, I think Joao Pedro and Cunha are both in and around the 60 million mark. If you're spending similar on Victor Gyökeres, we're hearing he's 60 million. That's not bad. I think, 120 million. Put it this way, 120 million for Cunha and Victor Gyökeres is better than 120 million for Isak, in my opinion. I think that is a better use of that money. We're hearing Sesko could be upwards of 75, 80 million because he had this stupid flexible release clause, which I think if you get into that region, that's probably a bit too much for him. But yeah, I could see this working. I like the idea of it. I think we've got good connections with Cunha through Berta as well. And we'll have to wait and see how it pans out. But look, that's going to be the end of the video. The videos over the next few days might be a little sparse. I'm going back to my parents. They're away on holiday. I've got to look after the family dog. So we'll see how that goes. Will there be any videos? Maybe. I might. Maybe. Just keep an eye out on the channel. If not, subscribe so that you always know when new videos have come out. If not, the next video will be after the Newcastle United game. There will definitely be a video after that. But other than that, it's a Thursday. It's basically a Friday. It's basically the weekend. So enjoy your evening. Enjoy the weekend if I don't speak to you before it. Please do like. Please do subscribe before you jump off. And I will catch you all on the next one. Until then, goodbye.